Thank you so much for being here to talk about community school strategy in Idaho. We're going to chat today about the Idaho Coalition for Community Schools, which is backboned by United Way of Treasure Valley. And we're going to talk about community school strategy and how it helps us to enhance student achievement and build family success here in our state. So my name is Katie Marshall. I'm the Engagement and Sustainability Manager at United Way of Treasure Valley. Like I said, United Way is the backbone entity for the Idaho Coalition for Community Schools. So we are an organization that exists to support community schools in Idaho. Normally, if this was a live webinar, I'd have you introduce yourself in the chat, but this is recorded. If you'd love to tell me who you are, I would love to hear from you. So please feel free to reach out at any time. Today, we're going to go over a community school. We're going to talk about the community school strategy and what community schools look like in the state of Idaho. It's a national strategy, but we'll talk specifically about what that looks like here in our state. And we're going to talk about what the Idaho Coalition for Community Schools does, who we are, and what we provide for schools. So one thing we like to do when we start to talk about community schools is take a look at this comic. You can see here you've got two students and an adult. Some people think maybe the principal, the teacher, but an adult that's looking at them. And one of the kids is holding a few suitcases. They've got hunger, they've got sickness, and they've got homelessness. And they're saying, could somebody help me with these? I'm late for math class. This is a comic that we use to talk about the strategy because all of these things that this child is dealing with are going to keep them from performing their best in the classroom. These are not things that are related to their educational ability or their educational journey in terms of actual content, but they are things that these kids come to school with sometimes, and they're things that are going to keep kids from learning and from thriving in schools. And the reason that we have community school strategy is to help address some of those challenges and make sure that every child has the opportunity to thrive in schools. We hear from a lot of Idaho educators that when they see this comic, this is something that they see frequently, something they see every day. So we know that it's not uncommon, and we know that the strategy is needed so that we're not in situations like this. Community schools, what we're talking about today, are neighborhood public schools that partner with their local communities to foster environments where every student can thrive. Community schools do not just exist to help the first kid in that comic with his luggage. They exist to help every child in the school thrive. They exist to help the community thrive and to help bridge that gap between the community and the school. And we'll talk about how they do that. So this is the national framework for community schools. Like I said, this is a national strategy. We're going to walk through what the framework looks like, what community schools make possible, what the actual things that are happening look like. And then we're also going to look more into the Idaho specific situations. But this national strategy starts with the very center, why we do this work. The reason that we implement community school strategy, the reason we believe in it, is so that all students can flourish in thriving school communities. That's what all educators want. That's what all of our partners want. We want every child to be able to thrive in their school. The people who drive this work look maybe a little different than what you've seen in a traditional public school. If you're not familiar with community schools, we have school staff who, of course, drive a lot of the work that happens within the school, and coordinators. The community school coordinator is who you'll typically see taking responsibility for a lot of this work. But then we also have community partners driving this work, and that might be a nonprofit organization. It might be a business that helps the school in different capacities. It might be other organizations in the community that have something to offer the school and the families, or that have a partnership that could benefit students and families. The other people that drive this work are youth and families. We like to say nothing about them without them. We can make as many decisions as we want about what is best for kids and what is best for families. And it absolutely doesn't matter if we are not asking kids and families what they want and what they need, because we are not trying to address needs that may not exist or that may not be the right answer. So school staff and coordinators, youth and families, community partners, all very important in implementing the strategy. It takes a village, it takes a whole team in order to make this work. These are the enabling conditions that are used for community school strategy. So these four things have to happen in order to have really successful community school strategy and a really high-performing community school. You've got to have trusting relationships. So when you're working with all of those different people that drive the work, they've got to trust each other. They've got to know that they are all working towards flourishing students. They are all working toward the same common goal, and they are happy to share the information that they have, to rely on each other. That's very important. You have to have a shared vision. Where are you going? What's important to your community? What's important to the kids and the families that you're serving? And how will that shape the way that your school looks? You have to have inclusive decision making. Again, this comes back to frequently the youth and the family piece. Are decisions being made that are best for kids and families with their input, with their involvement? Are you involving community partners with decision making? That's really necessary for community schools. And you work off of actionable data. Every single community school is different, national framework, but applied incredibly locally. It's a hyper-local strategy, and everything that is done at the school level is done based on data about that school, those kids, those families, and what they need. So you've got to be collecting that data, looking at what is needed by the community, and then acting on it. These are the key practices of community school strategy. So I like to think of the key practices as kind of the what is actually happening. All these things are happening, but the key practices are things that you're going to see and be able to pick out a little bit more easily if you walk into a community school and it's not where you typically are. You may have heard in the past, if you're familiar with community school strategy, about the 4 pillars of community schools. They're in these key practices, but there's some more information now in this expanded framework. So the first key practice is powerful student and family engagement. So you are making sure that kids and families are engaged in the school. They feel comfortable at school. They feel that school is a welcoming place for them. And they are coming to maybe family nights, or they're participating in different events and activities to help them spend time with their child, spend time with their community, and get to know what's going on in the school. This will look different everywhere. Again, every community school is different. This may look like a family reading night where families are invited to come and read with their student. It may look like a culture fair where families are invited to come share maybe food from their culture and talk with other families in the school. It can look different in every single school, but having powerful student and family engagement means that kids and families are engaged in the school. Collaborative leadership, shared power and voice. This really goes along with that inclusive decision-making, shared vision, trusting relationships that we talked about in the enabling conditions. The collaborative leadership has to come not just from the top down, not just from the principal who's saying this is what we're doing, but from a lot of different partners and people working together in order to make decisions and share what they believe is best, moving in the same direction. Expanded enriched learning opportunities. These can look a lot of different ways, but they may be before or after school care. They may be summer programming, maybe a summer camp through the school, or an after school childcare, a before school STEM activity. All of those would be examples of expanded and enriched learning opportunities. Then rigorous community connected classroom instruction. This is a great opportunity to get community partners involved. So community connected classroom instruction just looks like bringing the community into the classroom. Whatever is happening in your community, are your kids aware of it? Are they able to think about it? And does that impact them day to day? If you live in a really agriculture heavy area, do you have a farmer? Do you have a organization that it specializes in agriculture and can come talk to a classroom about what that means for the community? Are your students aware of how agriculture has shaped their community that they live in? This is going to look different everywhere again, but community connected classroom instructions means they know what's going on in their town, and the town knows what's going on in the school. And that's really valuable for kids and families to be able to see. Culture of belonging, safety, and care. This really goes hand in hand with that family engagement. If families and students feel safe, they feel like they belong in school, then they're going to feel more safe engaging. They're going to feel more comfortable coming to school. This helps to improve things like attendance and make sure that kids feel that school is a place that they want to be and that they're happy to be. And then integrated systems of support. This is probably one of the easier ones to see just at a glance. This may be a food pantry on site. If there's no food pantry anywhere in the town and a lot of families are having trouble accessing a food pantry, maybe you have a food pantry at your community school site. This may be a mobile dentist office that comes in frequently and offers cleanings to students. Maybe there's not a dentist within a few miles of the school, but there's a mobile office that can come in and partner in that way. Integrated systems of support could also be a mental health counselor that has an office at the school and is able to see more students if there's an increased need for that in the specific school. Again, every single school is different, so all of these key practices will look different depending on where you are, but all of these key practices are really kind of the what's going on, what will you see if you look at a community school. And then this last ring is the supportive infrastructure, what's necessary to keep community school strategy going in your school so that this isn't something that you try for a little bit. This is something that you can really implement so that it can be transformational work. And some of the supportive infrastructure are sustainable resources. How are you funding community school strategy? How are you funding a community school coordinator or any of these programs? Are you doing it through community partnerships? Do you have a foundation partner? Do you have grants? Are you using specific type of school funding that can be allocated for things like that to support students? Sustainable resources is a big part of success, and you got to be looking to the future to make sure that this can succeed. Shared governance structures is another one, making sure, again, that you've got that collaborative leadership and that everyone is using the same structure in order to conduct the strategy. Continuous improvement. No one is ever done implementing community school strategy. You don't start one program and then that meets all of the needs of the kids in your community and you've got nothing new to do. That would be wonderful, and it's not reality. So continuously collecting data, looking at what is needed in your community, looking at where those gaps are and what the school can assist with, and looking at what families can offer to the community as well through the school. That's continuous improvement. Data systems, I keep talking about gathering data, but it's really important to look at what kids and families need, what the community needs, where that overlap exists. And it's important to track and be able to see what programs that are being implemented have a big impact on student achievement, on student engagement. If you're running a program that's taking a lot of time and effort and it's not resulting in anything positive for kids and families, data will tell you that. And so it's important to have a system in place to track all of those outcomes. Professional learning opportunities. This is something that the Idaho Coalition provides for Idaho educators, but making sure that community school coordinators, principals are consistently able to learn about new opportunities, learn about family engagement in a new way. There's so much that we can learn from folks who are doing this work all over the country and all over the state. So making sure that you're engaging in that. And then strategic partnerships. This really ties in with those sustainable resources. What community partners are you engaging in community school strategy? Do you have a healthcare partner that can help out if you're looking to have co-located healthcare services? Do you have a food bank partner that can help out if you have parents and families that are looking for those resources? What partnerships exist, whether large or small, to just help engage with the school, with kids, with families in order to prolong the strategy? A few key elements that you'll see in a community school. I keep talking about this community school coordinator. This is the person who is kind of the point person or the contact for partnerships through the school. This is a role that probably doesn't exist if you are not currently in a community school or if you're not looking at a school that's a community school. But this person is a leader in the building or in the district, and they work with their principal to implement the community school strategy. Their job is really being the point person. They're being the go-to person to set up partnerships, to assess data. So they're looking constantly at what kids and families in the school need. They're looking constantly at what exists in the community and where those things can tie together. They are probably some of the busiest people in the school. just always looking for another partner, another program, whatever else will benefit their school. And they're doing that continuous improvement to make sure that things are better and better every single year for kids and families. It's a really vital role to have in a community school. It also means another full-time employee at a school, which it comes back to those sustainable resources. There are ways to employ that person. And once you get them, we know that the return on investment for a community school coordinator is incredibly high. Also, advisory councils are a big element to community schools. So in a community school, you'll see a broad representation of folks. This might be community members, businesses, nonprofits, students, parents, just people who are active in the community, not necessarily educators, not necessarily people that typically interact with schools, but people who have an interest in the community as a whole succeeding, and they help to make up the advisory council. Then they help with a lot of those things we just talked about, the sustainability, the partnerships that are necessary to run an effective community school. And all kinds of people serve on advisory councils. Everyone who lives in a community has a stake in that community succeeding and has a stake in those kids and families being as successful as they can. And an advisory council are really those folks that are going to stand up for community school strategy and help it come to life beyond even what folks in the school have the capacity for. And then a needs and assets assessment is another big element of community school strategy. This is where you start off with that data I keep talking about. So you assess kids, you assess families, you assess community members, you look at what are the resources that exist in this community and where are the gaps? What do people need access to that they do not have access to? This helps guide programs and services and activities of each individual school. This is the reason that every community school is different, because every community needs something different. The needs and asset assessment is done on a yearly basis. So again, that continuous improvement, always looking for what do our kids and families need now and what can we do in order to make that a reality. I'm going to share with you a video about community schools in Idaho. This was created by one of our partners, Blue Cross of Idaho Foundation for Health, and it highlights a few community schools in Idaho that are doing some really fantastic work.
So many students across our state have unmet needs, and there are barriers to their academic success. Community school strategy absolutely provides the path and opportunity for schools to have a more comprehensive way to meet those needs. The Blue Cross of Idaho Foundation for Health has been an integral partner in working with the Idaho Coalition for Community Schools, and we've come in as a funder that is allowing for the lift of community school strategy out of the Treasure Valley and into all regions of Idaho.
I feel like a community school opens up the dialogue between the schools and the families and lets families know that we are here to help.
We do an annual needs assessment, and we survey the parents and kids in our school to try to determine what they think they need and what they value out of education. The goal of a community school is to figure out what needs the community has and what desires they have. So our job as a community school is to actively seek for those community partnerships and bring in those services and resources to be able to help kids.
We basically are the hub. The services are brought to the hub to provide for our families and our students.
The very first needs assessment that we did, there were almost half of the respondents who answered to an open-ended question, what do we wish the community had? People wanted after-school programs, or they wanted a safe place for kids to be after school, or they wanted a community rec center.
The after-school program is amazing. I wish that every school could participate in it. It gives all the students here an opportunity to grow in ways outside of just their education.
In the state and in the nation, there's a major mental health crisis. Our kids are suffering and struggling at a rate that I don't think we've seen before. If you look at the research, anxiety and depression among our youth is skyrocketing. And One big thing that we did with Blue Cross of Idaho Foundation this last year is we partnered with them to do the Healthy Minds Partnership. And that was a program that gave us technical assistance to navigate the waters of getting mental health clinicians into the schools.
Our school also does the recess program where they have specific things set up for the kids to participate in, so no kids feel left out. There's always somewhere that they can go, something that they can play, something that they can do and be included.
The recess zones help our kids create trusting relationships with each other, trusting relationships with the adults on the playground.
According to the state's metric on school success, our school has gone up by over 108 points in the last 5 years. So I think that that's a great benchmark that shows some of the good things that we're doing as well.
I wish that every school had a community school because it helps to meet the basic needs of the students first so that they have food, so that they're more prepared and able to learn. It helps to meet their emotional needs. It helps them learn how to better work with other students. There's not enough good things I could say.
You'll hear a phrase about community schools. If you've seen one community school, you've seen one community school. And that is because every community school is unique, not only to their community, but their neighborhood. So the uniqueness that you will see at Harwood Elementary is going to be very different from what you see at Cascade School District.
Once we got introduced to the community schools strategy, I really started to realize that being in a small school, we are the heart of the community, and oftentimes the place where people come, families come, kids come when they need something.
Cascade School District had some key components for community school strategy. They have an amazing preschool program. They also have some really great out of school and after school activities. Where they are now in the formal linking of all of those program supports is actually creating a stronger, more comprehensive system.
I think so many times in education these days we feel like we're just adding one more thing and one more thing, and this isn't one more thing, it's like the thing.
For me, one of the things that I'm most proud of is this teen center. It interacts so well with community schools because, first of all, we're in the school, which is the immediate perfect fit where the kids are already here. It's really easy for them to come in. But it additionally offers something to the school, which allows them to continue to connect with teens and families after normal school hours and kind of helps us break down those walls like, well, it's 3:45, I'm done with your kid.
We have also started a journey with the Healthy Minds Partnership to bring in a licensed clinical social worker to work with some of our students and families that are needing that support and wanting access that's more friendly for them.
To me, the community school model is just all of these different little mechanisms that feed perfectly into community schools that provide for the whole health of the child and the family unit.
Academic outcomes have improved greatly. We've gone from an underperforming school in the state of Idaho to one of the top growing schools in Idaho. We hit the top 10 math proficiency for a district. So you went bottom 5% to top 10% in 5 years by focusing on systems that are sustainable and holding high expectations. Like our current kindergarten class just finished their early literacy state assessment, and they came out at 87% proficient, which means like all but one or two are reading right where they need to, which has not been the case for us. And I think that has a lot to do with early childhood programming that we offer, because those kids that leave there are ready for kindergarten.
The positive impacts of community school strategy really go back to the increase in student and family engagement, increases in academic success, the ways to address chronic absenteeism. It's important to recognize that all of the factors that schools are measured on, by which they are identified to succeed, are impacted by community school strategy.
I think kids are so much more than a number. And I think it's important that as a community, we know our kids. We know what our kids need. We know what their families need. We don't just push them through. We get to know them, we love them, and we help them. It's a community responsibility to raise good kids.
If students aren't successful in their academics and they don't have great academic outcomes, that leads to poorer health outcomes for them in the long run. So So that's why our investments as a health foundation are critical.
Without the coalition and the Blue Cross of Idaho Foundation, I don't think Cascade would be where it's at and moving in the direction that it is. Without that mindset and without even some of the training and some of the things that we've already gone to and kind of been a part of, you don't necessarily understand how that all fits together.
The Blue Cross of Idaho Foundation for Health has chosen to invest in community school strategy because we recognize and believe that the work we're doing truly will create better health outcomes for the students, the families, and the communities where we're supporting community school strategy. When students and families succeed, communities succeed, and when communities succeed, we all succeed.
All of those folks do a fantastic job about talking about community school strategy and what it's made possible in their organizations. But one big thing I want to highlight is what Joni from Cascade said. Community school is not just another thing, it's the thing. A lot of schools are already doing a lot of things that relate with community school strategy. And the strategy is just the formal linking of all of those things, especially smaller schools. We know frequently will offer different programs and things that their families are saying that they want. And community school strategy is a framework for really providing what the community wants and responding to that and then tracking those outcomes. So thanks for taking a look at some community schools in Idaho. There are many more than just the few that we looked at. As you can see here, we're actually up to 65 community schools across the state of Idaho for the 2024-25 school year. We started in 2016 with 4 community schools. In 2016, they also were all in the Treasure Valley area. So in addition to many more community schools existing, the strategy has really spread geographically across the state of Idaho. Like you can see here, these are all districts with community school sites. Many of these districts have more than one community school. And there is now a community school in every single education region across the state of Idaho. And the reason that this happened is because we know community school strategy works. Every single school is different. This is not us or any national group telling a school what they should do. This is families, parents, kids, community deciding what is best for them, making choices about what will most help kids and families in the community, and what the community would most benefit from, and then having the power to institute those steps and to follow what their community is telling them they need. So amazingly, this has spread, like I said, to 65 schools across the entire state of Idaho in the last few years. And now community schools can be found all over the state. Here are a few success stories that came out of Idaho. These are stories that people have reported to us at the coalition from their Idaho schools. I won't read through all of these. I know you can read them if you choose to, but just a few really phenomenal stories. The first one, expanded childcare services to prevent student dropout and staff turnover. That's from a school where childcare was a real problem. It was very hard for people to access childcare. It was very hard to get a kid into childcare at all. And because of that, there was increased student dropout from students who needed to provide care either to their own children or to siblings, family members, and that prevented students coming to school. And there was also staff turnover because some of the staff at the school had such a difficult time getting their own children into childcare that they ended up not being able to continue to work in the school. This was a huge need in that community. So the community school expanded childcare services. They had co-located childcare. So childcare that actually was located at the same space as the school. And they had a significant drop in student dropout and in staff turnover, which benefits everyone in the community when you have quality school staff that are able to stay in their jobs, when you have kids that are able to stay in school. Obviously, that is good for everyone. Another story I wanted to highlight is that last one on the end, increasing accessibility to healthcare. This is a huge thing that we see, especially from schools that are in more rural areas or further from major hospital systems. We have had schools have success partnering with different foundations and healthcare providers in order to have them actually come out to the school site and provide healthcare, provide things like vision screenings, so that people have access to that. Sometimes it's really hard for a family to be able to maybe take a whole day off of work and drive somewhere where they can access healthcare. So we've had schools where kids hadn't had a vision screening in several years, and they were able to set up through Community School Strategy a partnership to have a vision screener come out, do the screening at the school, and then also set up a partnership with a foundation so that any students that failed the vision screening were immediately able to purchase glasses at no cost to the family. Obviously, being able to see really improves student success and confidence. It improves everything about their lives if they're then able to see and have the vision that they need. So increased accessibility to healthcare is another big one that we hear a lot about from community schools here in Idaho. So the Idaho Coalition for Community Schools, we talked about the national level, we talked about some Idaho specific examples, but what are we at the coalition doing? Why am I here? Why do we exist? We work directly with schools and community partners in order to implement community school strategy. We also work with state and local leaders to advocate for community school strategy as well. We serve a growing statewide network of schools, and those schools serve their local communities. So we are the state level organization that is able to provide assistance and support to community schools, educators who are putting the strategy in place, partners who are working with schools, and we're able to assist in that journey, offer trainings, offer resources, so that community school coordinators and administrators have the best possible scenarios and systems set up for their kids, and so that kids and families across Idaho are able to thrive in their school systems. A few different convenings and trainings, some things that you may see the coalition, putting on. We have statewide town hall convenings. So those are virtual meetings where we talk about the coalition efforts, a little bit of what I'm doing right now, and then a little bit more timely what's happening right now with the coalition. And we welcome anyone and everyone to come to those town halls, hear about what we're doing. We also offer both a coordinator and administrator peer learning network. So coordinator peer learning network is for community school coordinators who are doing this work in their town or in their school district to come and talk with other coordinators about maybe challenges they might be facing or successes that they're having. We facilitate that network, and so we provide resources and assistance, but we also hold space in that network for them to just talk to their peers, especially if you're living in a small town in Idaho. You may be the only community school coordinator for miles and miles and miles. So it's wonderful to be able to facilitate that virtually and allow coordinators to connect with each other, learn from each other. These are folks that are working incredibly hard to make this work possible, and they have great ideas and great triumphs that they can share with each other. Similar, the Administrator Peer Learning Network is for administrators, superintendents, principals who are working in community schools so that they can meet virtually, talk with other administrators, get support from us if needed, but also just hear what their peers are doing successfully, what they're having trouble with. No better professional development than another peer doing the same work as you. So we're happy to hold those spaces. We also are currently working on the Rural Expansion Initiative, which I'll talk about more in just a moment. And we hold monthly Community School 101 webinars. So this webinar that you're watching right now, there's a live version every single month through the coalition. We alternate, we do one webinar focused on educators, and then we do the next month's webinar focused on community partners looking to work with schools. So there's something for everyone. These are our collaborative funders. These organizations have made it possible for the Idaho Coalition to do this work for the number of years that we've been doing it. They have supported financially us doing work to convene community school coordinators and to offer trainings. They've also financially supported community school coordinators, schools that were looking to get started with this work through grant funding processes. So they really have done a lot to help uplift this work all across the state of Idaho because they see the value in this community school strategy. The Rural Expansion Initiative, this is what I touched on just a moment ago, and this is a big project of the coalition from 2024 through 2028. So we were awarded a federal full service community schools award from the U.S. Department of Education for $46 million over 5 years. The project started in 2024 and will end in 2028. And the goal of the project is to support the expansion of community school strategy across rural Idaho. So that graph I showed you with 65 community schools all across the state, we are looking to support and expand that even further. Like you could see, that graph started years ago in 2016. So community schools have been growing across the state of Idaho, thanks to the collaborative funders, thanks to phenomenal partners that we've had work with schools. But this grant from the U.S. Department of Education will help us to provide even more support to community schools and will help us to spread the strategy even further across rural Idaho. Our goal under this initiative is to have 50 school sites under 25 school districts and up to 10 new school districts across the entire state. So those 50 school sites, you may be thinking, you said there were 65 schools. I don't understand. That's a lower number. 50 school sites would be supported under this grant specifically. There are some schools that are running community schools and they do not need grant support or partnership with us through the Department of Education, and that's fantastic. But through this grant specifically, those funds will go to 50 school sites across 25 districts. And we have a cohort right now that is implementing community school strategy, working under this grant for the 2024 and 25 school year. We'll be selecting new school district partners to begin for the next school year, 25-26, in the fall of 2024 as well. The objectives of this initiative, the Rural Expansion Initiative, look probably very similar to what you see most school district objectives are, or most education objectives are. Nothing terribly different, because remember, every community school looks different, but it's because we're all trying to achieve these things. We want students to be ready for kindergarten. We want to make sure that kids are achieving academically. We want students and family to receive holistic health supports. We want them to be able to access health supports. We want to make sure students are attending school consistently. That is made easier when schools are welcoming places, when kids feel like they belong there. Has a positive impact on student attendance. We want to make sure students are graduating prepared for post-secondary opportunities. So that is a big part of that community connected classroom. What industries exist in your town, and are students graduating prepared to work in those industries? That's a great opportunity for community school strategy to work with your school. Families are engaged in their children's education and in the school. We want that family community engagement. And we want to make sure that educators, families, students, community members all work together to support student success. Community school strategy does not work if only people in the school, only school staff are working on it. We have to have support from families, from students, from the community, and we have to have all of those voices supporting student success. If you are looking to get started with community school strategies, if you are in a school, one fantastic thing you can do is start to convene a group of leaders in your community. That would be school staff, district leadership, but also parents and community members and students who are willing to talk about the needs of the community. Bringing together your team to do a learning or visiting on operating community school site is another wonderful step. Like I said, our community school 101s happen monthly. We would love to have you on the next virtual 101. We always have a question and answer time. So if you have big burning questions after listening to this presentation, please sign up for a 101 or reach out to us at the coalition. Visiting an operating community school site is also one of the best things you can do to really see the work, understand what's happening. If you're looking for a community school site, our website, which is Idaho Coalition for Communityschools.org, has a map of every community school in the state, so you can look at which ones are operating near you. Understanding the needs and assets of your community and mapping existing programs and services is also a great first step to take. That already has you looking at gaps and thinking about opportunities where the school and the community could come together in order to better serve kids and families. And setting a shared vision to begin taking steps forward as partners is another great first step. Again, the coalition exists to support community schools. So if you have questions or ideas or thoughts about starting with community school strategy, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. You can fill out our contact form on our website. You can reach out via our social media, which is at Idaho Community Schools. You can send an email to us at iccs@unitedwaytv, like treasurevalley.org. We would be happy to talk with you, share ideas with you, and hear what you're thinking about community school strategy. Thank you so much, and we hope that you have a fantastic rest of your day.